Welcome to Everyday Martial Artist, a weekly podcast where you'll join me, Brian Doucette, as I interview a different martial artist each episode and hear their story. Some guests you may have heard of, and some you probably haven't. Be sure to subscribe where all your favorite podcasts are available. Also visit our website at everydaymartialartist.com. If you're listening for a specific interview, I sure hope you'll stay and check out the other episodes. A very special thank you to Topher Williams for our custom theme music. And now, the newest episode of Everyday Martial Artist. Everyday Martial Artist is brought to you by KOOnline.com for all your martial arts needs. Sparring and safety gear, rank belts, uniforms, weapons, patches, and more. Wholesale supplies made by martial artists for martial artists. Visit us today at ko-online.com. Hello and welcome to Everyday Martial Artist. I am your host, Brian Doucette, and as you do every week, we're joined by a brand new guest talking about their life and their journey throughout the world of martial arts. My guest today was born in New York and grew up in North Carolina and chased his dreams to Hollywood, California, where he wound up portraying Raphael in the original live-action Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle films of the 90s, starring in the international martial arts hit Showdown, also another good one, and appearing and directing many other projects. He has the honor to work with some of the top martial artists in the film industry, including Pat Johnson, Cynthia Rothrock, Billy Blanks, Art Camacho, Gary Daniels, Jeff Imada, and more. He's the author of the Amazon top pick book, Teenage Ninja Mutant Turtle, Becoming the Real Raphael. He began studying martial arts as a preteen and has over 45 years of involvement in the martial arts, has studied Goju Ryo, Shaolin Kung Fu, American Kempo, Tai Chi, Muay Thai, Lima Lama, Isshin-Ryu, and more. Please welcome my guest today, Mr. Kenn Scott. How are you doing today, Ken?
Hey, Brian. Good to be here with you today. Thanks very much.
Hey, thank you. I truly appreciate your time, and I'm looking forward to learning more about you.
Well, I'm looking forward to, I guess, talking about myself.
Well, there we go. Well, what we do with all my guests is, I mentioned over 45 years of experience, but I want to know where that started. I want to know where that first interest came from, kind of how your martial arts journey started off.
I was in the 7th grade, and up till the 7th grade, I had been playing soccer like so many little kids in America were doing back in the late 70s. And at the local community center where my soccer games took place, every Saturday when I went through to the games, there were those people inside the gym in these pajamas, and they were punching and kicking, and I was just fascinated by it. And really very interested in it. Didn't really do too much about it. And then around the 7th grade or so, a friend of mine got in a fight. Some kid was picking on him in school. And my friend leaned back and kicked the guy right in the head. He didn't knock the other guy out or anything like that. But it looked so cool. He kicked this guy. And I was like, man, his name was Robert. And Robert used to take karate with those guys in the community center. And that kind of turned me on a little bit more to it. And then there was a kid in my school that I'm walking through the halls one day, and this kid jumps out of the shadows and bulldogs me and just gets me down to the ground, hurts my neck. And I'm just like, oh, this sucks. I don't ever want to feel like this again. Maybe I should get into this karate stuff. So the first thing I did is I went and asked if I could take karate. And my dad was like, no, this is going to be something you'll just quit, just like model trains and other things that I was into as a kid. So I went to the library and I got a book on karate. And I don't remember which one it was. It might have been in one of the Bruce Tenner books or something. I can't remember at this point. But Went out in the backyard and I took off my shoes and I laid that book out on the trash can. And I started learning horse stance and punch and things like that. And ultimately, you can only do so much when you're looking at a book and you're just a kid. You don't really know what's going on. But my dad saw what I was doing and he said, hey, look, I see you're really into this. And he made a deal with me. He said, hey, look, I'll pay the $15 a month for you to go to the community center and take karate. However, if you quit, you're going to have to pay me back for all the months that I paid for.
Nice deal.
And I was like, okay. Yeah. I was like, I'll do it. I was a kid. I was 12 years old. I had no understanding of money. I didn't have money coming in. So I was just like, of course, if you give me a chance, I'm going to do it. So anyway, that was the seed. I went and joined a Goju-Ryu karate class at Lewis Recreation Center in Greensboro, North Carolina. I studied under a gentleman named Lawrence McSwain, who's still there to this day, 45 years later, teaching and doing the whole thing and really contributing to the community. It's amazing.
That's
and
awesome.
That was the beginning. And that started me on my journey, which led to exploration and adventure in a bunch of ways. And then many, many years later, I went up to my dad and I said, hey, if I quit working out now, do I owe you for all the time back when it started?
That's awesome.
And we agreed that it was a done deal. It was just good for a year. So that's how it all started for me.
That's awesome. So think back to maybe those first one or two classes. Now you had watched them, you had interest, you decided, you convinced your parents to let you join. Once you got there, what was it about it? What made you keep going? So you never had, obviously not wanting to pay your dad back was probably a little bit, but what was it about it that, that style, that instructor that really drew you in?
Well, I would say the style was just kind of by default. It was the only really martial arts class I know. I didn't go around and look at Taekwondo schools or anything. So I just kind of fell into it, which was great. But there's something about the mystery of the sort of the Eastern arts, and that really intrigued me as a youngster. Like I was very driven by, even before martial arts and stuff, I was very much into professional wrestling, and I loved action movies. And in the early '80s, Canon Films was coming out with ninja movies, and Enter the Ninja, Return of the Ninja. And before that was Chuck Norris with A Force of One and Good Guys Wear Black. So all these things were kind of influencing me in a way. And there was this exposure to this new thing called ninjutsu that people didn't know about. And there was, at that time, now you go to any city and everybody eats sushi. But back in the mid '70s and stuff, I was growing up in Greensboro, North Carolina. I didn't know anybody that ate sushi. I never had it in my life. So all these things from the Far East and from Japan were very intriguing. And so having that mystery and that intrigue, but learning how to do like what I considered action hero stuff. Like I'm learning how to kick and punch and do all this kind of cool stuff. It was super exciting. Like it fed my soul in a way that like soccer, which was very fun, it gave me something new. It gave me a whole other I don't know, spiritual and educational level to grab onto. And I think that's what kind of got me all in.
That is awesome. And at any time while you were at that school, did you get involved in the competition side of martial arts at that time? Or did that come later?
Oh, yeah. That actually became a big part of it. When I first started there, competition wasn't a big thing, although it had been part of the past. It was part of the legacy of that dojo and the people I was with. But after I got into sort of the mid and later Q ranks, before I got my black belt, one of the other black belts that was a little bit older, he was only 21 or 22 at the time, now in retrospect, but he returned to our school. He started there and went off and trained with other people, and he came back, and he was a very significant competitor in the Southeast region. His name was Jay Bell, and his nickname was the Cat, Jay the Cat Bell. And as a 21, 22-year-old, young life guy, he was a force in the tournament world. And so he had some friends that kind of joined the class once he came back. I was up and coming. I wasn't playing soccer anymore, so there was no competition in my life. I loved martial arts and karate. So this kind of avenue kind of opened up where it was already there a little bit, but when Jay came back, it really opened up and the school got a little bit more focused on even some competition stuff. So at least once a month or so from the time I was 13 till I was 16, we were driving somewhere in North Carolina, Virginia, Georgia, whatever, and spending $25 to spend all day in a hot high school gym competing for trophies and a 6-foot grand champion trophy and all that.
That's
so
right.
I was reading Karate Illustrated on a regular basis. I had a subscription to it, and they used to have the ratings in there, and there was A-rated tournaments and B-rated tournaments, and I was constantly reading those articles and looking at the people that were competing, and ultimately fantasizing and actually going to places that I read about, like going to the Battle of Atlanta and competing there. So that's a long answer to yes.
Yeah.
Competition became a big part of what we were doing.
Okay. And how long did you stay at that specific school then?
I was there from the time I was 12 till I went off till I was in college at 18 years of age.
Okay. Then when you got to college, was that top of your mind to search for somewhere else to train, or did you take a little break?
Well, let's say this. So first of all, let me say that was the first I trained there till I was 18 and went to college. And literally about 2 months ago, I went back and spent a weekend with them. Nice. Training and visiting my old instructor. It was great.
That's awesome.
When I got to college, I was definitely interested in martial arts, and I did sort of see what was available. I went to a couple of karate club workouts here and there. There were people that I had competed with on the local circuit that went to the same college as I did. So we would get together and train a little bit. But truth be told, as I went through my college years, a lot of training kind of fell by the wayside as I got involved in a really crappy pursuit of academia, but a really vehement pursuit of drinking and eating pizza and just trying to be stupid.
Yeah.
And so I got through college in 4 years. I did have martial arts as part of it. I did have significant physical training and working out and getting in great shape, especially my last year. But when I first got there, I wasn't necessarily a very compliant or great trainer.
Okay. And what style did you mostly train at during college?
Again, my foundation was in the Goju-Ryu karate, and that was basically what I did. And when I worked out with other guys, we didn't really spend time teaching like, hey, here's a system, here's a style. We would get together and, throw kicks and practice one-step sparring and spar with each other. And so it was that kind of applicable training of what I already knew. Okay. I didn't really change or start studying anything else until after graduating and starting work and moving to California.
Okay. So after college then, what was the next step? Was California around that time, or was it a few years later?
California was my ultimate goal, having got involved in martial arts when I was young and fantasized about martial arts movies and all that. I had decided at a very young age that I wanted to be a martial arts action hero on the movies. Okay. It wasn't some weird thing that I was just throwing out there. My brother decided he wanted to be a doctor, and today he's a doctor. Nice. And I decided, at first I was like, well, I'll be a lawyer. And then when I was like 12 or 13, I was like, no, I'm going to be an action hero in the movies. So everything I did growing up was geared towards that. Studying martial arts, learning how to ride motorcycles, jumping out of airplanes, taking fencing, riding horses. I mean, just anything that I thought I needed to do to be an action hero kind of guy. So as soon as I graduated college, I had been traveling down to North Carolina's coast, Wilmington, which is right on the coast. Dino De Laurentiis had built a movie studio there. Oh. And so I was spending my summers hanging out down near that movie studio, trying to work as an extra, trying to somehow figure out how I would break into the movie business as I was graduating with a television and film degree from college.
Okay.
As soon as I graduated, all the adventures that I had had down there over the previous summers culminated in me getting invited to audition for the movie Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Because they were shooting it in North Carolina, they were reaching out to local martial arts schools and putting the word out through the general media that if you were a martial artist and you were in North Carolina, they were looking for people to get beat up by the main characters in these movies, which meant they were looking for the foot soldiers to go against the Ninja Turtles.
Right.
We didn't know that at the time. We just know they were looking for martial artists, whatever that would be. So as soon as I graduated college, I drove down to the coast. I had an opportunity to audition for Pat Johnson, who's a legendary martial artist from the Chuck Norris system and in Karate Kid and all that. And I got hired to be one of the foot soldiers. And I had a whole bunch of adventures going through rehearsal and getting to know Pat and all these things that I did and this and that. And ultimately what happened was the guy that was Raphael doing all the action and fighting for Raphael broke his nose. Oh. And they needed somebody to replace him. And so I went from foot soldier. Pat came up to me and said, Ken, my son, if you can fit into the Raphael costume, you're going to be the new Raphael.
Wow.
I'm like, okay, Pat, that sounds great. So
wow.
I went up to the Henson Creature Shop. I squeezed my 145-pound, dare I say, muscular frame into the same costume that this 125-pound guy from Hong Kong was wearing. Wow. It was molded to his body. I had to squeeze myself into this thing, pop the head on, and that got me the job as Raphael. So my journey was training, stay in North Carolina to train. My plan was to go to Los Angeles, but I got lucky. This martial arts movie landed in my backyard in North Carolina, where I was growing up and going to college. Got that job and shot 2 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movies in North Carolina. And that was great because I was exposed to a whole lot of different martial artists who were on that movie. And when you have all those martial artists together with all that time to sit around, there's always a lot of impromptu seminars and a lot of impromptu tall tales being told. So that was a lot of fun to do that, made those 2 movies. And then once they were done, I moved to California to pursue my goals of being an action hero. And then that was the next steps towards my martial arts journey and all the things I did there.
So on Ninja Turtles, when you got there, did you know, I'm assuming you knew at least some of the people that were either foot soldiers or, in the suits or whatever, just from tournament circuit and stuff that were kind of like you?
Yeah, I knew right away. I knew Ernie Reyes Jr., who, just like me, he replaced the action turtle for Donatello. Yep. There was a guy from Hong Kong. That guy got hurt. Pat Johnson reached out to Ernie and said, hey, will you do this? So I knew Ernie from when he was a little kid, just as a celebrity. As a matter of fact, Ernie was, he's like 5 or 6 years younger than me, but already at this point, I was looking at Ernie Reyes Jr. as somebody I wanted to be like. I mean, he was in The Last Dragon with Ty Mock when he was like 10 or 11 years old.
Sidekicks.
He was in, he had his own TV series, Sidekicks. He worked with my hero of all time, Arnold Schwarzenegger, in Red Sonja.
Yep.
So I knew Ernie, and we had met and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, I also knew a handful, a small group of some of the foot soldiers just from having seen them on the tournament circuit. Most of them were black belts that were older than me, that like own their own schools and things like this.
Yeah.
I was kind of one of the few Ronin-like students that just rode in myself and got in there. So yeah, so I knew some of the guys, but not a lot. Oh, I did recognize Dale Sunshine Fry, the world, I think he was lightweight kickboxing champion from the PKA.
Wow.
And I was a huge PKA fan growing up. I mean, it was the only exposure before the UFC and stuff. That was your only exposure, to live martial arts and knockout martial arts on television back in the early days on ESPN. So Dale Fry was there, and he was awesome. We became super great friends, I think. He would come to LA and visit after that. And as a matter of fact, I literally just saw him about 2 months ago. He went out of his way to come to a Comic-Con and visit with me. So that's lifelong friendship.
That's awesome. Yeah. All right. So then you get to Hollywood. What's next? What are your first few steps? Do you find somewhere to train first? Do you start acting classes? What do you do?
It's so funny you're asking me that. Literally just before we got on this podcast, I'm currently I wrote a book called Teenage Ninja Mutant Turtle, and it's my adventures, how I got the job of Raphael, and all behind the scenes stories of making those movies. I'm in the process of writing a second book.
Nice.
That I hope to have done in the next 3 to 5 months. That's all about the continuing adventures after that. It's like, what happened? And so when you say, well, what happened after that? It's like, man, I just wrote, 120,000 words on that. So where do I start?
Awesome.
But from an entertainment career point of view, I went out there and I had a lot of cool stuff happen right away. People that I had met on Ninja Turtles. I was young. I had promise. I was 22 years old. I was athletic. I was doing, again, dare I say, world-class martial arts with Hong Kong movie martial arts guys. So I felt kind of like, okay, I'm doing pretty good here. So when I got to LA, some of the stunt people that I had worked with on the 2 movies invited me to come do stunt work on some bigger Hollywood productions. So I got to do some stuff like that. Pat Johnson gave me a call and brought me in and put me in a movie called Shoot Fighter, a martial arts-based movie basically about MMA, but then it became MMA to the death. But basically about MMA and shoot fighting, like shoot boxing. Before it was even a thing. So on that movie, I got to work with Billy Zabka from Cobra Kai and Karate Kid.
Yep.
And at the current time, they were trying to break a martial artist tournament guy named Michael Bernardo. And so the movie starred Michael Bernardo, Billy Zabka, and Bolo Yeung.
Nice.
Yeah. And in addition, I mean, it's all kind of entertainment stuff, but it's all kind of martial arts based. In addition, the one scene I got to do, I play a fighter who doesn't want to fight anymore because I don't want to get hurt. And in the locker room, and I get killed. But the people in the scene, the gangster that I'm going up against was James Pax, who plays one of the 3 Storms in Big Trouble in Little China, which is one of my favorite movies.
Yep.
So James Pax is the gangster that comes in and tells me I'm going to die. But the actual guy that kills me is an actor named Bob Schott, he was the bad guy in Force 5 with Joe Lewis, and the bad guy in Jim Kata with Kurt Thomas.
Wow, Jim
So I'm
Kata.
like, this is awesome. So it's like all these movies I'd seen growing up. Here I am in the room with these guys and doing scenes and getting killed. And I mean, it was just awesome. So entertainment-wise, I was having all these great little things happen. And then training-wise, I had friends that were martial artists, and I was working in the stunt world a little bit. So I was meeting stunt people, and it was about getting together with people. And again, just training, not necessarily teaching one another a style, but working out. Oh, what do you do? Oh, I did Taekwondo. Oh, what do you do? Oh, I've studied some capoeira. And we would get together in LA, the stunt community would have an open night. It was called Open Gym Night, or I can't remember, Open Gym.
Mm-hmm.
And it was usually on Tuesday nights in the Valley. And you could pay $10 or whatever to go to this gym. And it was chock full of stunt people practice, and you could use the pads and the pits and anything you wanted to work out. So that was a chance to go expose ourselves to other martial artists and stuff. One of my friends from Ninja Turtles moved out with me. We practiced martial arts together. It was beautiful, man. We used to go up on the roof of this 10-story building in Los Angeles and spar. And it was like, look at this. Look at the life we're living. This is amazing.
That's awesome.
But then ultimately, from a martial arts journey point of view, I mean, I continue to work in entertainment and pursue all these different things. And ultimately, I started a movie called Showdown, which was basically kind of like Karate Kid. And I'm the Ralph Macchio-like character.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of Mr. Miyagi, it's Billy Blanks playing a former cop who teaches me martial arts.
I literally just watched that about 2 months ago. That's when I'm like, I need to contact Kenn Scott.
Oh, there you go.
So
there you go.
I love that movie.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate that. It's funny because when I go to Comic-Cons, the world is full of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle fans.
Oh, yeah.
So I meet a lot of Raphael and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle fans, which is great. But when I meet Showdown fans, I'm like, okay, if you're a Ninja Turtle fan, you're a Ninja Turtle fan. But if you're a Showdown fan, you're a Kenn Scott fan.
That's
and
right.
I'm like, yeah. So I always get a kick out of that. So while I'm doing this and training with all these stunt people and being exposed to all this other stuff, I'm learning how to do things. I'm learning how to use my body in ways that I hadn't before and all this stuff. But ultimately, I find my way to a place called the Taoist Institute in Burbank, California.
Okay.
Literally on Burbank Boulevard. And the Taoist Institute was run by Sifu Carl Totten. And Carl Totten was one of the most accomplished martial artists I've ever met in my life.
Wow. And
he was a Taoist priest. He'd just done so much across his life. He was a Taoist priest. He was a Tai Chi master. He was a Bagua, Shaolin Kung Fu, American Kempo, Lima Lama. He studied all these arts. He had a whole, again, it was called the Taoist Institute.
Mm-hmm.
And it was literally one of the most in-depth and immersive martial arts environments and experiences I've ever had. He had a library in there, and part of your promotional system was there was a list. You had to read a certain amount of books every so often, and you had to check those off, and you had to have a notebook that you kept. And it was a notebook where you had to write out every single step of every single form you did. And when you worked out, you had to write in your notebook a summary of the things you trained in that night. I mean, it was amazing.
That's awesome.
I studied there for several years and got exposed to all these different arts, taking different specific classes. On certain nights, it was specific Tai Chi training. Other nights, it was Kung Fu training. Then you could get into Bagua and some other arts that I didn't explore too deeply. And then then American Kempo, which was such a badass art to study.
Yeah.
That was so much fun to learn the movements there. So that kind of opened me up a lot in terms of taking the things I had learned, especially from a karate foundation, a karate background,
mm-hmm.
and then learning the circumlocution and the flow of Chinese martial arts. And man, one day it all just came together for me. I walked into the Kwoon, the Kung Fu school, and I was practicing a jump spinning crescent kick. And I've been doing them since I was a kid. I could jump and do a 360-degree crescent kick.
Yep.
And when I was simply practicing Goju-Ryu and training all these other ways, I could jump in the air, and I don't know if this will make sense, but I could jump in the air and my leg would travel around like a baseball bat. And I would really just be this powerful spinning a club. And then without thinking about it, but having trained in Kung Fu for a while, I walked out to the middle of the floor by myself, and I leapt up, cat-like, mind you, and I spun 360 degrees doing a crescent kick, but it was like my body whipped around like a snake or like a mace, like an iron mace. And I could feel the speed and the power of that whipping motion in a way I had never felt like before. And when I landed, it felt to me like the moment that Jet Li has in the movie Tai Chi Master or Twin Dragons, when it all comes together and you just go, holy shit, that is it. And from that point, my whole life since then has been trying to figure out how to blend the arts that I study to find that combination of energetic movement.
That's awesome. At any time in that point, did you get involved in the teaching side of martial arts? Or do you ever teach others? Do you ever, consider opening your own school?
I love karate schools. When I see them, I love to go in them and look at them and everything. There's just something about them that I love. I also realize that running a karate school is a very difficult business.
Yes.
And it often entails having to teach certain ways and certain things that you may not otherwise do if generating revenue wasn't an important thing.
Right.
So anyway, that's a long way to say I don't really want to have the burden of running a karate school. I would love to have just a dojo or a school where those things did go on, but I also don't want to be committed to the schedule.
Right.
So no, I've never really thought that I was a good candidate to own a school.
Okay.
But I enjoy teaching very, very much.
Okay.
I've taught ever since I was in my original school. When you start to advance as a belt, you begin teaching. I've taught my whole life. I was a certified fitness trainer in Los Angeles for a very, very long time. I eventually got my master's in education. I developed a children's enrichment program based on martial arts called Young Ninjas USA.
Wow.
And it's a full curriculum that was, I think, eventually made its way to 30 to 50 private schools throughout Los Angeles. Okay. So I continue to teach today. I train here in Fort Worth, Texas at an Ishinryu dojo. And I've learned a whole new system of Okinawan karate over the last few years studying in that system. And I've also been blessed to have the opportunity every once in a while to take charge and teach a little bit. And I love it. I love the exchange. So yes, I enjoy teaching very much.
Okay. Think back to that first time, like helping with a class at that first school you trained at to now. What do you think has changed the most about your teaching style?
Oh man, I think my empathy and my understanding of the learner's perspective is the key. When you're young, all I'm thinking about is what I want, what I think, and what everybody should do. And how can I be a great drill instructor here? And make sure your push-ups are right, and 2 knuckles, and blah, blah, blah. I mean, very hardcore. Yeah. And everybody's good, and it's very traditional, and it's all this, but it's not necessarily the most, emotionally intelligent way to go about it all the time.
Right.
And so I think my ability to adapt and understand learning styles and the learner perspective.
Okay.
I would say that.
Cool. Now, obviously with a character like Raphael, everyone knows he carries the sai with him. So how about you? Do you have a favorite weapon that you train with?
A favorite weapon. My favorite weapon to train with. My favorite weapon is probably the nunchucks.
Okay.
For a couple of reasons. One is it's the first weapon I ever started using. I think my instructor originally sold me some real octagonal hardwood nunchucks when I was like 13 years old. I think they were probably $4.50 back then.
Nice.
I ordered out of Karate Illustrated. I probably paid, $5 or $6 for a pair of, I think they called them swivel chucks or something. Yep. And it was just the connectors. You had to get your own like dowels or handles and put them into these things.
Oh, really? Okay.
And so I got a broomstick and I just cut it and I put them into these swivel chuck things. And to this day, I still have those nunchucks 45 years later. So
that's awesome.
I've always spun the nunchucks around. When I was a kid, I used to wear a skateboard helmet because I would hit myself in the head with them.
Yeah.
So I've always enjoyed those, but the reason they really stand out is in the original Ninja Turtle movie. Mm-hmm. One of my favorite scenes is when Michelangelo says, "Oh, a fellow chucker, eh?" And they go back and forth with the guy in black as the nunchucks. And I'm fortunate that's me in black doing the nunchucks against Michelangelo. So
that's awesome.
There's kind of this iconic scene that a lot of people know that's nunchuck based, and I have a lot of fun with it. So, but currently I do work with the sai.
Okay.
In the school I'm at now, we do sai katas, bo katas, tonfa katas, and recently I've been learning an eku or a or kata. Which is fun. I've never done or in my life. So
me either. That's cool. Yeah. When I was a kid, it was nunchucks. And as an adult, it's become tonfas, my favorite. So two of the same ones. I love them both. But and I have a pair of those swivel chucks too. Mine, I bought them fully complete though. I mean, this would have been in, I think 89 or 90. I would have been like 12, same thing, 12 or 13 year olds, bought them at a local sporting goods store. They sold them to 10, 11, 12-year-old kids back then, and I still have that pair. So
a full set of nunchucks.
Yep.
Hardwood nunchucks. Wow.
Yep. That's
incredible.
very cool. Cool. Well, we got to talk about the book. First of all, what led to the decision to write a book, and talk a little bit about it, what people can hear about when they're, or learn when they read the book.
Well, the book is called Teenage Ninja to Mutant Turtle, Becoming the Real Raphael. And it's basically the kind of adventurous story of how I got the job as Raphael, and then behind the scenes stories of making the first two Ninja Turtle movies, and stories that most people don't know. If people are fans of the Ninja Turtle movies, this book it's a gift. It literally was my gift to fans of the movies, because when you go to Comic-Cons, fans love to hear the stories. What went on behind the scenes?
Yeah.
What went right? What went wrong? What was it like working with Vanilla Ice? What was it like meeting Jim Henson? On and on and on. Was it hot in that suit? And so this book encompasses my story of deciding that I was 13 years old, I wanted to be an action hero in the movies. The steps I took, I disguised myself as a pizza delivery guy, and I snuck into the movie studio and ended up meeting people, and that ended up, meeting the people that could get me the job and all this. So there's a kind of crazy adventure of how I got there, and then the crazy adventure of making the movies. So it's available on Amazon. The soft cover is only $10.
Nice.
It's available on Kindle. I think it's like $3.99 or something like that. But it's also available on Audible for people that listen to books. And it's me actually doing the whole book. And
wow.
I had a great time recording it. I actually recorded half the book and then realized I didn't like what I was doing. So I was like, I tried to figure out what I needed to do differently. And finally it hit me one night. I go, Ken, do it like that TV show, The Wonder Years. And I was like, yeah, that's it. I'll do my version of The Wonder Years.
Nice.
So I went back into the recording studio and started just thinking I was being Fred Savage or whatever it is. Anyway, so recorded it, had a great time. What drove me to write the book, though, was kind of a few things came together. One was I've been doing Comic-Cons a long time, and fans really do love to hear the different stories, and they are interesting. If I was a fan, and like I was into movies and trying to get as much information as I could about movie making, I would love to hear these stories and what was going on. So I kind of knew there was people that wanted to know them. They didn't always get a chance to talk to me. But what actually happened that kind of drove it and made it concrete was my father was at one point diagnosed with terminal cancer. Oh, wow. And so because he had that, we were spending a lot of time together, and it was great. We were really having a great time together. We'd been close, but we're really bonding. And one of the things he started doing was, in reflecting on his own life, he just started writing down all his memories. And not long, just little sentences. He wrote like Aunt Millie's chocolate chip cookies, living on, in the Bronx, joining this gang, whatever it was when he was a kid. And he just wrote these little 2 and 3, word thoughts. And he was like, yeah, these are the things that I remember. And we would talk about them. I was like, oh, tell me about the cookies. Tell me about when you lived in the Bronx. What was this like? And then he said to me, hey, why don't you write down some of your memories just like this? Just go back as far in time as you can, and then, bring it and let's share and let's talk. And so I actually started doing that. I started just writing little 3-word things of my earliest memories, living in New Rochelle, New York, getting my foot caught in the mud and losing my shoe at a construction site. I mean, just the craziest things. And as I wrote this list and my dad and I were sharing back and forth, I realized that I had this like 5 or 6 page handwritten list on a pad. And at some point, that list led right up to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And from that point forward, I just started writing my memories of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And so when I went and looked at this list, I literally had like the map of my life. And I realized people aren't interested in all that. They're interested in Ninja Turtle stuff. But I realized, wow. And the other thing that happened was that spurred me to the next level was I had been at a Comic-Con previous to all this, and I had seen Ty Mock there, the star of The Last Dragon.
Nice.
And Ty Mock had written a book called The Last Dragon. And it was his story about how he grew up and what he did and how he became the Last Dragon and all these things. And when I read it, I thought to myself, I think I could do this. I have an interesting story of becoming Raphael too. And so now I had this list of all these things, and I realized if I went back to each memory and took those 3 words, I could turn those 3 words into a sentence. And so then I had all these sentences. And then I realized I could take that sentence and turn it into a paragraph and just keep expounding on things. And as I did that, I kind of had this organic growth of what eventually turned into 90,000 words. And I had that, and I was like, wow, there's a whole book here. Let me just and then I got into the whole edit process. That's a whole other story. But those 88,000 words ultimately eventually turned into 66,000 words, which got published and became the book that it is.
That is awesome. First of all, congrats. I mean, I started my first book a year ago, and I'm not even 20 pages in. So yeah, I have plans over the winter to work on it more and stuff and get it done. But yeah, I love people who write books. And before I started the podcast, I was a huge reader. I used to read a book a week. And since I've started the show 4.5 years ago, I think I've read 3 books in 4.5 years. So not a lot of free time, but this is what I do and I enjoy it.
Yeah. I'm a voracious reader. I read every single day.
That's cool. I want to get back into it. That's the plan. When I retire, I'm going to read all these books I have that I'm stacking up. So,
but writing, hey man, the key to writing is that old Nike phrase, just do it.
Exactly.
Yep. It doesn't matter if it sucks what you write, because it's going to suck.
Yeah.
The first draft is going to be terrible and it's going to be nothing. My first 88,000 words was the vomit. It's your mental vomit. They say in writing is rewriting.
Yep. And
it's true. First you get your mental vomit out, and then you got to roll up your sleeves and craft that into something.
That's cool.
And so get on it, man.
Oh yeah. That's one thing I'm lucky about. Because of this show, I've interviewed so many people who have written books. So I'm getting feedback from every one of them and ideas and stuff. So yeah, it'll happen. It might just take a little longer, but it'll happen. So
yeah.
So over your 45-year martial arts career, is there one philosophy that stands out? Is at the top of your list?
Well, philosophy. My whole life is guided by the tenets of martial arts and Bushido and the accompanying spiritual philosophies that are often found with that.
Okay.
So ever since I was young, I've honored and respected what I consider to be the nobility of, like, the Knights of the Round Table or Captain America or other superheroes. There's this sort of like, you're going to do what's right and you're going to do, do things in the name of justice. So that was the foundation before I was exposed to anything in my life other than the Judaism that was part of my youth. I was bar mitzvahed, but that didn't really, when I'm 13, it's not really speaking to me spiritually.
Right.
I'm more interested in studying karate and learning the ways of ninjutsu and samurai and all those things. So that started to guide me. Over the 45 years that I've been doing martial arts, the physicality of martial arts and the exposure to the accompanying philosophies and the Book of Five Rings and the Tao Te Ching and Buddhist writings and all that led me into in-depth study and immersion into Asian and Eastern thought. When I studied at the Taoist Institute, I was reading the Tao Te Ching and loving it and seeing the messages that were there. Reading non-Eastern works. I think probably one of the key things I ever read was The Hero with a Thousand Faces by Joseph Campbell. It showed me that the mythology of all cultures, and mythology includes the stories of religion, whether it's the story of Jesus or the story of any other religious figure out there, they're all parables and metaphors that lead to the same conclusion of at-one-ment with yourself, that bring the losing of duality or the bringing the duality together. They call it atonement or at-one-ment, enlightenment, awakening. And so my life with those foundations of Eastern thought found its way through the rivers of Taoism and Zen and ultimately settled into Buddhism as a prescription.
Okay.
Because basically, it's not, there's no God in Buddhism. There's just a prescription. It's a school of thought. It's like the Four Noble Truths. Suffering exists. It exists because of your desire. There's something you can do about it. And what you can do is the Eightfold Path. And then the Eightfold Path is, right vision, right speech, right effort, right, all those things that make it up. So within there, I try to find my spiritual prescription for, I guess, bliss or whatever. But a big part of that is my martial arts training and practice to support it. And I think just like religions and spiritualities, I don't think any one system of martial arts is better than another. I like studying a lot of them and all of them because just like the spiritual paths, I think, as my instructor said, they're all different paths up the mountain, but the moon we look at is the same.
Okay. I like it. All right. How about, do you have a worse martial arts related injury?
Yeah, I had to get my hip replaced about a year and a half ago
Dang.
because, just overuse and over time.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't say that I have an acute injury other than, you break a finger or break a toe. I've never
Hmm.
done anything acutely more than that. But
Okay.
over time, I've developed hip arthritis, and yeah, that sucked.
Yeah, that unfortunately with guys our age, that seems to be an ongoing thing. So
Yeah. I'm dealing with a lot of those things now. I'm trying to figure out, I'm at a crossroads, or should I say a fork in my road somehow right now, martial arts wise, because as I am getting older, I'm almost 60 now. And a lot of the effects of hard training are setting in different ways. And it's ways you don't think when you're younger are going to bother you. But
yeah.
I now have arthritis in a singular toe joint that keeps me from going down into a close kneel pose.
Oh, wow.
So a lot of martial arts movement is now I'm restricted from doing. And it's like, oh my gosh, I never thought, about that. And so I'm starting to have to adapt not only how I'm training, but also starting to look at the ballistic and impactful nature of things I'm doing and looking at, okay, perhaps we're now more of the gentle arts than some of this other, impactful stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway, just thoughts out there for getting old. There's a reason why all the old great martial artists become calligraphers.
Yeah.
It's easier on the body.
Oh, I get that. And I know you're a little short on time, but I have a few fun questions we use to wrap up the interview. So let's say you decided out of the blue, whether a younger Kenn or something, you were going to fight in like the UFC. What is your walk-up music going to be? What songs playing as you're taking that walk into the cage?
Gosh, that's so funny. Now that you asked me that, I won't have one. Because my fallback was just going to be an AC/DC song.
Hey, nothing wrong with AC/DC.
Yeah, and now I can't even think of which one. But golly, oh man, that's tough. I'm zoning. I can't even tell you one because I'm freezing on it right now. What's the one where they? I don't even know. What's the one where they shoot the cannon on AC/DC?
Is that Thunderstruck? No.
No, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't remember either.
Anyway, and there's a lot of AC/DC. Let's just say it would be from the AC/DC cannon.
All right, that's okay. That'll work.
That'll get my head moving.
Nice. All right, who are 3, 4, 5 names you'd put on your personal Mount Rushmore of martial arts?
Oh, Bruce Lee, my personal Mount Rushmore.
Yep. They can be people. I mean, it's really just your choice. When I've asked a question, people have just said like Bruce Lee, Chuck Norris,
Okay.
Yoshiba.
I'm gonna say Carl Totten.
Nice.
Who was my instructor in Taoism.
Okay.
I guess this is going to be people don't know, but I'm putting Bruce Lee up there. Then I'm putting I'm putting 3 of my own instructors.
Okay.
Carl Totten, and then Ed Johnson unfortunately he just passed away, but he was a Marine in Okinawa from 1958 to 1961. And he studied with the Tatsuo Shimabuku, the founder of Isshinryu Karate. So he's a first-generation black belt.
Wow.
Came over here. I met him in Fort Worth. I studied with him for a couple of years, got promoted under him. And he was also a gentleman that lived at temples, Buddhist temples around the country, and just stayed and meditated. So we had a lot to talk about. I learned a lot from him. And then my original instructor, Lawrence McSwain, because he set me on the path and he set me right. I've seen a lot of karate schools and a lot of instructors over 45 years of doing this. And there's a lot of shitty martial arts out there. There's a lot of great martial arts, but there's a lot of shitty martial arts too. And I'm very, very fortunate to have started under an honorable man teaching art with passion and for the right reasons in the right way. So those are my 4.
Hey, that's good. I like it. All right. Other than your own, do you have a favorite martial arts book? I know you've mentioned a few already.
The Tao of Jeet Kune Do.
Nice.
I think is a really great book. And then there's another, gosh, I don't have it in front of me. I think it was John Little, but I could be wrong. There's another Bruce Lee book out there.
Yeah, he's done a few of them. He's got some good ones.
Yeah. Yep. But I'll say the Tao of Jeet Kune Do simply because it's the man's own stuff. And I'm trying. Yeah. However, sorry, Brian.
No, go ahead.
I'm trying though. I want to get more. Right now, I'm reading the Book of 5 Rings for probably the 10th, 12th time in my life.
That's a good
read.
And
I'm understanding it. Yeah, I'm understanding it now more than I ever did before. I'm understanding the pithy and he says very little in it, but he's communicating a lot by saying very little. Between that and the Bubishi, the old, the Bible of Okinawan karate, which I've only studied a little bit and don't really understand, but want to understand more.
Okay.
So I think there's some secrets in there.
That's cool. See, I'm the same with Zen and the Martial Arts by Joe Hyams. I've probably read that 7-8 times, and I learn something new every time I read it. So
awesome.
All right. How about a favorite martial arts video game? Did you ever get into gaming?
Yes, a Street Fighter 2.
Nice. Very cool. I like it.
And I played Guile or Guile, however you say it.
Okay.
I could kick ass.
All right. These last 3 questions, you can't pick anything you've personally worked on. So this one, a favorite martial arts TV show.
The Master.
Oh, nice. Lee Van Cleef and Timothy Van Patten.
Yeah,
I love
salami.
No, I have it's sold as a movie on DVD, but it's the original pilot episode. Right. Yeah, with what's her face was in it that was married to Ashton Kutcher. I can't remember. I'm drawing a blank now.
Demi Moore.
Yeah, Demi Moore was in it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nope, I have that on DVD. That's awesome.
And you know, the guy that plays the sheriff in that episode is the same guy that's in Deliverance that takes advantage of Ned Beatty in the woods.
That's right. Nice. That's funny. All right. How about a favorite martial arts movie?
A favorite martial arts movie. I'll just give you my top 3.
Okay.
In no particular order. Enter the Dragon, The 36th Chamber, and Tai Chi Master.
Nice.
There's many others that could easily be working into the top 5, but those are my 3 classics that if I was going to show people martial arts movies of different types, I'd go, hey, check these out. They're very entertaining.
All right. Final question. This one doesn't have to be a martial arts movie. Any movie you've seen in your whole life, a favorite movie fight scene?
The fight between it's Keith David and Roddy Piper, and
They Live. You're like the 4th person that has picked that. I love that so much.
Okay, I'm going to throw in one honorable mention as well, and that's the silhouette fight in Old Boy when he's escaping from the hotel, and it's like 11 minutes long or something, 8 minutes. I don't know how long it is, but it's one continuous shot dollying back and forth as he fights like 30 guys or something. Incredible.
Awesome. I don't know if anyone's ever picked that one. That's awesome. I love it. And They Live. That's one of my all-time favorite movies. I introduced my daughter, who's now 19. I introduced her to that for the first time a year ago. And now she's a fan too, so that's good.
John Carpenter, man, he's like Steinmart. There's a lot of stuff to look at, and every once in a while, one of them is just like the baddest thing ever.
Yeah, I think that fight scene, and then the other one that I love that a few guests have mentioned now is the sword fight in Princess Bride.
Oh yeah,
yeah, those have both been picked on the show a few times, and I love it.
Yes, although that is a martial art, I wouldn't have qualified that right away.
Yeah,
I'm also a big fan of the gang fight in Big Trouble in Little China.
Yes, I got to interview Gerald Akamura on the show.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
I feel blessed over time. I've checklisted quite a few of the people in those various gangs that I've worked with and been on the set with. Yeah. Including awesome. James Hong, David Lopan.
Oh, I met him at the Internationals in Long Beach in August of '95, the first time I drove to California. And James Hong was there. He was there, and the girl who played Kumiko in Karate Kid 2, they were both there next to tables next to each other. I got to meet them both, so that was kind of cool. Before I let you go, is there anything I forgot to ask you, or we just want to get out there really quick before we wrap it up?
No, I would say, I travel the country right now in North America going to Comic-Cons.
That's awesome.
In 2026, I'm doing a series of Comic-Cons called Fan Expo. So if anybody's out there and listening and, wants to come to a Fan Expo and hang out and chat and meet, and I'll be there with the other Ninja Turtles and all that stuff, we'll be there. You can find more information for me I'm on Instagram at Kenn Scott Official. Ken is spelled with 2 N's. And I'm on Facebook at Kenn Scott-Raphael. So people can check that out. If they want to check out my book, they can go to turtleconfessions.com, and that'll lead you right to links that go to Amazon, or you can go to Amazon and just search Kenn Scott book, and it'll come right up. And again, if there's people out there that enjoy the movies, just read the reviews of the book. I guarantee you'll love the book.
I ordered it, and I can't wait to read it. And I will put links for all that when the episode comes out also. And just so you know, your episode comes out October 30th. So we're a little over a month, almost exactly a month away from recording day. So,
there you go. It's almost a Halloween release. Halloween adjacent.
Hey, there we go. But seriously, sir, this has been so much fun. I love your story. I can't wait to read the book. And I think the listeners are really going to love this.
Well, Brian, I really appreciate you spending the time. Thanks for just even being interested in talking to me. So thanks for your consideration.
Thanks for listening to Everyday Martial Artist. We hope you will join us every week for a brand new episode with a different martial artist telling their story. If you enjoy the show, be sure to leave us a review. Also, be sure to check out our website at everydaymartialartist.com. There you can find all of our episodes and contact us to suggest guests and ask questions. Again, thanks for listening to Everyday Martial Artist, and we'll see you next week.